I just remember thinking, like, this is just majestic as fuck. Like, clearly this is a great state.
Jesus.
Buckets on there.
Okay, we're idiots. Oh. Hey, I clicked it already.
Oh, super. Okay, good. Well,
I didn't know that I did.
awesome. All right. Hello. Welcome back to Louder Than Ever. I'm Mary.
I'm Hailey.
And we are Gemini Ravenclaws who took French in high school and have literally nothing else in common.
That's true.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Ça va?
Bonjour. Comment ça va? Oui, ça va bien. Et tu? Et toi? Jeez.
Oh.
Well, et vous is what I was going for, but then I realized we're way past the vous, you and me. You're definitely,
We are. Yeah,
you're definitely a toi.
Yes.
So
I think we've escalated to that level.
Yeah, definitely. So that's why it came out too a little rusty. But anyone who knows about Romance languages will understand that I was just discussing that I would use the personal pronoun in French for Hailey and not the formal pronoun of vous.
Because we know each other.
And there's a lot of rules in French about that, which was just kind of...
French is weird.
It is, which is why I don't
English is weird.
I should have taken Spanish. We both should have.
I did.
So, well...
I did, and I failed. That's why I took French.
Well, because French and Spanish are so different that you're at...
They really are, though.
They really aren't, though. That's not... They're both Romance languages. They both have similar structures and verb tenses, and the roots of words are even often spelled the same or very similar, although the big difference is pronunciation.
Mer.
Okay, anyway. So, I should have taken Spanish in high school, I guess. That would have been a lot more useful, obviously, in our world today, but, that's beside the point. So, today, we've decided to talk to you about our home state.
Minnesota.
It's
Minnesota, not Minnesota.
Yes, there you go. So I'm sure the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about Minnesota
For most people.
is the weather. So we're just going to get that out of the way right now.
I think most people don't really understand what Minnesota weather is like. I think they think of Minnesota and they just think of, like, brutal, awful winters.
Which is a valid,
Sure.
part of our weather. Huge part,
Sure.
6 months, I would say.
Yes, okay, winter is most of our year.
So, there's that. It's definitely the longest season.
It is. But we do experience, like, all 4 seasons, like, full on here. And I don't think people, like, really realize that we have, like, beautiful autumns.
Autumn is one of my most favorite times of year.
Right.
Spring is really beautiful, too.
It's rainy, though.
It can be rainy, but I really enjoy the lower temperatures. It's a little bit less humid sometimes. And, of course, that's before the
brutal summers.
Before the insects flourish in the later warmer weather.
Our quote-unquote state bird.
The mosquito.
The mosquito.
Makes its appearance and relentlessly tortures us for several months. Basically, until winter rolls around again. And then it's cold. And it's really cold. It's not just a little cold. It's not just... You think that people will be like, oh, I've lived in, like, the middle of the country, so I know. No, you don't know. If, your nostrils freeze over the instant you open the door.
That is such an uncomfortable feel. Like, just saying it, like,
I know.
my nose
you can feel
cringe.
You can feel it happening. And it's not just for a couple days. I mean, there are usually a solid 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Where we might be below zero the entire time.
Yeah. It's
the subarctic wind chills that come into play where we don't really cancel school for snow. I mean, we will. But
it's rare.
It has to be a lot of snow. But the cold will cancel school for, because otherwise our children will turn into little icicles at the bus stop. It will
die. Just
minutes, and you're frostbitten. So the winter is actually really wintry.
Yes.
It's not just, your kind of calm little snowfall. How pretty. No.
We're being a really great come to Minnesota ad right now.
We're not, I mean, you've got to admit that it's awful because they'll know we're lying.
It's true.
So
the winters are not great.
But that is only, some of the winter is nice. It's a little more temperate. I love it when the highs are in the mid-20s and, you get a little sunshine going. It feels a little warmer in the sun and you can still play in the snow, and that's nice.
It is. It is nice.
And snow is nice. I wouldn't want to move somewhere where I would never see snow again because it's fun and it's a well-rounded experience for you as a human being. I feel like everyone should have that and the changing colors in the fall, and
yeah,
we do really have it all that way. But in the summer too, it can be a really extreme high temperatures, and the humidity is really what makes it so uncomfortable.
I'm a little bit weird as a Minnesotan because I would actually say that I dislike our summers more than I dislike our winters.
Yeah, because that's not a popular opinion.
It's the Viking in me, my Viking heritage. But it's just like, I feel like the winter, you can always just put more layers on and you're going to be fine, or you can just stay inside and you'll be fine. But this gosh darn summers, we have over 10,000 lakes here in good old Minnesota, and the humidity from those damn lakes, I just can't.
Well, and it's the bugs too that grow in the lake water and in the surrounding marshy area.
I hate summer.
It can be bad. And I disagree with you, obviously, as most sane people would. Most sane people enjoy the summer because you can go outside without, your skin freezing off in a matter of minutes. But I can understand the sentiment because, you might have seen from our cartoon, we're not, skinny people. And so getting overheated is a real struggle.
Concern.
Yeah.
And real uncomfortable.
It is. You can't take this off.
I'm not about that life, as she gestures to
her.
As
I gesture to my body in general, making a sweeping motion with my arm. See, I can do that because the children were watching Inside Out and they turned on the descriptive audio. So, for like visually impaired people who are trying to watch the movie. And so the whole time there's this, otherworldly voice that's like, she turns to him and smiles, raising her shoulders. She says, and then you hear the character speak. And then they come back in with more descriptive audio. And so I felt like right there I was...
That's fascinating.
Engaging in descriptive audio. I think it was on the Blu-ray. You have so many Disney movies.
I do. I have so many, and I do have the Blu-ray, so I don't think I've ever experienced that with a Disney movie
It's
before.
Not especially enjoyable experience. I have to admit. I found it really irritating, and I was only exposed to it for a few minutes. So.
Oh.
But the boys seem to like it.
Well, still a different experience, though.
It is.
I dig it.
Well, okay, so we got weather out of the way.
Oh, okay. Did we, though?
Well, we could talk about it for the whole episode, but
yes.
It might not be that exciting for anyone.
We really could.
So, I guess for me, winter is something that I dislike, so I'll share something that I think is pretty cool. We were the first people to put cheese inside cheeseburgers.
You would.
I would.
I would.
I think...
Before this episode, before we started, Tuna and I were discussing, the ungodly love that you have for cheese.
I really do love cheese.
It is insane. How much you love cheese. I cannot properly convey to our audience.
Well,
the insanity.
It's delicious. Cheese is my most favorite food. It's versatile. It can be used to enhance so many other foods, and I really love cheese. So to me, the fact that Minnesota was the first state to discover and serve the Juicy Lucy with the cheese inside the burger. I mean, it's genius. If you haven't had one,
you're missing out.
You are missing out. You should definitely try Matt's Bar or the Nook are two great places.
I was just going to ask you, actually. There's a huge debate in Minnesota, and this, families have been broken apart over this, whether the true inventor of the Juicy Lucy is Matt's or the 5-8.
Okay, well, you'll never answer that question, so to me, it comes down to which one is better.
Okay.
So I go with Matt's.
Interesting.
Because I will never definitively be able to decide, but I've had both.
I have also had both, but I grew up going to the 5-8.
Oh, okay.
So for me, the 5-8 is the logical answer because it was the first that I had.
And that makes sense. That colors your experience, your worldview. Right. But... we went to the Lion's Tap for 4 cheeseburgers when I was a girl, so I don't have that, nostalgia bias.
Have you ever tried a 50-50 Juicy Lucy?
No.
Okay, you're missing out.
What is it?
So, Whiskey and I made them once, and they're literally the best thing on earth.
Okay.
So, it's a Juicy Lucy, but the actual meat is half beef and half, like, chopped up bacon.
Ooh.
So the patty itself is just loaded with bacon and delicious beef.
Yum.
And then inside you have
cheese.
your fantastic melty gooey cheese that's going to scorch the F out of your lips.
Well, you just got to be careful. You're going to proceed with caution.
So also, highly recommend.
That sounds delicious, too.
Food in general.
Minnesotans do have a thing for food.
We just are killing it on the food.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have the state fair. Everybody has a state fair.
But we have the state fair.
The Great Minnesotan Get Together.
I mean, it's a big deal.
It's huge.
It has a princess, which we carve her head in butter.
We do. That is a thing that we do.
It's a thing that we do.
We have that huge slide.
Oh, the slide is
which
really
is
fun.
so much fun. Why is just a slide so much fun? But it is.
It is. It's because it's just a giant slide and the colors and the bouncing.
It is. The animals are fun if you like animals.
If you like 4-H, the 4-H booth is always one of my most favorite places to go. You'd be amazed at what these children put together. Far more talented than I as an adult. Yep. I could never produce some of these things. I mean, it's just really amazing.
It's incredible.
And I think probably my most favorite, of course, is the mill. Ye Old Mill.
Oh, sure. The mill.
It's like a Tunnel of Love ride, but it's got really strange vignettes of fairy tales and like a dark tunnel. It actually sounds quite terrifying.
A little bit, yeah. Like, I don't think we're really enticing our audience to come.
But it's really quite fun. And then, of course, cheese curds. I mean...
Cheese curds.
Cheese curds, again with the cheese. But for me, cheese curds from the state fair is like just the epitome of enjoyment.
Right.
You can't get
better. Almost every Minnesotan restaurant has cheese curds. Like, they're that big for us.
They are.
But no place has cheese curds that are like the state fair cheese curds. There's something so different about them, and they're just so perfect.
They are.
Also, the mini donuts are bomb.
And the roasted corn.
Those are the two things you have to get. Also, probably the full-on bucket of Sweet Martha's cookies.
See, I never buy those because I make delicious chocolate chip cookies on my own. Thank you very much. I don't need the bucket. You wouldn't believe. Well, the other thing is, and I'll be honest, the other thing is the line at that booth.
Yes.
Every time I've gone to the fair and walked by that booth, I've been like, pshaw. There's no way in any way that I'm going to stand in this hot sun because it's almost always really hot.
Well, it is in August. So.
Yes, it's the 10 days of fun ending on Labor Day.
Yes.
So we could probably pick a better time. I don't think that...
That's true.
But it is kind of fun. It's sort of the end of summer and it's your last, hurrah. To me, I went every year for over a decade. I just recently missed a couple years because, well, Noodle.
Right.
Little baby.
Noodle happened.
I was really, really pregnant because she was born at the end of August too. So, and then I missed all of that year, and then last year I just didn't have the motivation to go. We had other things going on, but I'm definitely going this year.
She was just a year old, so you were kind of busy.
Couldn't really bring her.
No.
I mean, I don't.
I mean, people do.
I know people are crazy, but I'm not about that noise.
This is my week-old baby at the state fair.
I did bring Puff to the state fair.
Sure.
His first year, but he was 6 months old or so. So
yeah,
I still wore him though. It was unpleasant though and not fun, so I wouldn't really recommend it. I haven't done it since with any children. In fact, none of my children have been back to the state fair. It's a mommy thing, and I think that's fine.
Yeah. Did you go as a child?
Oh no.
Oh.
I think the first time I went was when I was like in high school. So I didn't. I went to the county fair.
Oh, sure.
Like the Scott County Fair. You know, we lived in New Prague. We didn't venture all the way up to dangerous St. Paul.
See, we went. My mom called it. I don't think every year, but we definitely went when we were kids. There was my grandmother, actually. This wasn't with us. This was with my mom's cousins, I believe. But my grandmother believes that she invented the child leash at the Minnesota State Fair. Because she went when my mom and aunt and their cousins were fairly small. So she took dog leashes and just hooked them to belt loops. And so she's missed off on how many millions of dollars.
I was going to say, because those things are...
They're special.
That was a big idea.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, I had one. It was a backpack. There's those air quotes again. It was a backpack that looked like a monkey, and it had a long tail That was the leash portion. But the most hilarious picture I ever saw, there was a child that was holding a dog on a leash, and the child himself was on
Inception.
Was on so great, you know. But give them power over one thing, they won't mind that you have power over them, you know.
Oh my god, that's great.
It was pretty funny. But yeah, the state fair is just probably one of the best.
It's one of the best.
You would definitely need child leashes there. That's why I've never brought my children. Ooh, and there's a haunted house.
I am not about that haunted house life.
I know you're not.
Like, I just got real serious. Okay, let's get real for a second. If you put me in, like, an old abandoned mansion and tell me this place has been haunted for the last 50 years and, like, 800 people died here, I'm gonna be fine. But if you put me in one of those godforsaken haunted house attractions at a fair or anything like that, and some motherfucker in a goddamn clown costume comes and jumps out on me, first of all, I'm gonna get arrested for assault because I will punch him. And also, somebody is going to go deaf because of my screaming. Well, I don't like jump scares. I don't like not being able to. I don't like them. I can't handle any of that. That's okay. I'm night blind, so I can't see at all.
It's the beauty of the fair. No. You don't have to do all the things because there are so many things to do. So
I'm very worked up.
I'm sorry that I mentioned the haunted house, but not everyone has been to our wonderful state fair, and they need to know about all the attractions available.
You can skip that one, though.
All the radio stations go there, and they have booths, and all the TV stations do, and you can pick up a lot of free swag. Mm-hmm. You know, it's quite fun. I mean, it really is. Even if you don't, spend money to go to one of the grandstand shows or something like that, you can still really have a great time. Although I will say that I've gone to the fair on a budget, and it's not the most fun ever. It's really nice to have a big wad of cash to buy all the things you want to eat. And you
need to, save for all of July just to go to the fair.
And, fast for a couple days before.
Definitely
I found the key to enjoying all the fried food is balance. And so I found one of my most favorite balancing dishes that's available at the state fair, which is strawberries and cream. And it's
the last time we went to the fair, we walked for 8 miles, it felt like, to find those damn strawberries, but they were so good. It was so worth it by the time we got there.
And we found a seat, and we were just eating them, and I was like, it was totally worth it. But there's just so many different kinds of food available, all kinds of cuisines. And
lingonberry ice cream, I enjoy that. Lingonberries in general.
Delicious.
I mean, the Swedish culture, actually, in Minnesota is one of my most favorite things about being here, actually. Yeah. Just because, my family is super Swedish, and I really enjoy that. We have Swedish Christmas every year, so I grew up with, this Swedish culture, not, too hardcore, but just enough for me to, always appreciate it. Mm-hmm. So, all of our little, Scandinavian stores that we have, and there's favorite. The Swedish Institute. The Swedish Institute is great.
And
we have an IKEA now that's still fairly new to us, and it's fantastic.
Their meatballs there are just really good too.
They really are.
I really want to go there soonish to get some
Swedish meatballs is great. I would really love to go. We should go to IKEA soon.
We should.
We really should.
We really should. I really love that lingonberry sauce with the meatballs and the.
Yes. Do you dip the meatball?
Oh yes.
Okay, you have to.
You have to.
If you have,
I demand extra.
You should.
I do.
For those of you who have an IKEA near you or ever make Swedish meatballs, if you do not dip your meatballs in your lingonberry, you need to reassess your life.
I agree.
Because you have made terrible, terrible mistakes.
I have, in a pinch, used cranberry sauce as a substitute for our homemade Swedish meatballs, which my husband makes. Enough.
It's acceptable.
It's quite good. If you can't locate lingonberry sauce, using cranberry sauce will give you a similar sensation. But I would highly recommend going to the IKEA. And they have lingonberry juice there, too, in their fountains, which is also good.
And they have the cute little store, grocery store portion at the end.
Right.
And I love it.
I don't ever really go into the store itself or purchase anything. No.
Oh, you should.
The quality and stuff is just not
I love it. Because it's all actual stuff, actual Swedish stuff.
Yes. Oh, you mean the food things?
The food stuff.
Yes, and I do buy some small housewares and stuff, but I won't purchase furniture there.
Oh, no, and I don't usually either.
No.
I mostly go to IKEA for the meatballs and just for the experience and to get to the grocery store at the end because I love it so much.
I have purchased, like, the cream sauce mix there and the big bag of meatballs. The frozen meatballs are actually quite reasonable. Mm-hmm. So there definitely is a strong Swedish component.
Just Scandinavian
in general.
History here in general, and I love it so much.
That is something I like too, having a similar background.
Right.
Although some German, which I like to deny.
Oh.
Yeah, I like to pretend that that's not a thing. But
no, I'm kidding. I have that too.
I know you do. Most of us do.
We're all mutts here. It's fine.
It is fine. Nobody cares. We have to address, of course, Camp Snoopy.
Oh. R.I.P. Camp Snoopy.
R.I.P. Camp Snoopy.
I mean...
it was the place in my childhood. I still see Snoopy in the canoe with the little wood stocks behind. I mean, I really have a strong affinity for that imagery. And Nickelodeon Universe is, they've done a really nice job rehabbing the park and things. And they've put in new rides and made it more exciting. And that's great. Yeah. But it's sort of disappointing. It will never really feel right.
Right.
To me. The log flume they left alone, though, and I'm grateful for that.
That's nice, yeah. I think for those of us who, grew up here and were, around when, the mall opened and, it was Camp Snoopy from day one, I think all of us will always call it Camp Snoopy. I don't think any of our generation are really willing to let that go.
No, I mean, think about the big Snoopy water bowl fountain.
Yes, I was just thinking about that.
I know, it's just sort of heartbreaking.
It really is.
When you really think about it, and all the kites stuck in the tree ride,
The Snoopy references in Minnesota in general are great.
They are.
When we did the Snoopy and Charlie Brown and...
Statues everywhere.
Did we do Woodstock ones too? There were Lucy's. Yeah, they did those statues everywhere and they themed them. Mm-hmm. My aunt and my grandma drove my brother and I around so many weekends. So we could take pictures. Mm-hmm. We still have pictures with
That's really cool.
It was a game practically to try and find all of them.
And now they're
Everybody else
hands,
is chasing around Pokemons now. We were chasing Snoopy.
Snoopy statues. That's the kind of thing that Minnesotans will do. I mean, we have a statue of Mary Tyler Moore.
We do.
And we really have a strong pride in our icons. I mean, Prince. It's still purple. All in downtown. I was just there not too long ago. We're really proud of our native people,
I think
it says something because he was here though. He stayed.
He stayed here. He was so big.
And he made his mark on a lot of facets of our lives and just that's another reason to be proud to be a Minnesotan. I know lots of states feel like they have their, native sons or daughters that give them pride, and we definitely feel that for a lot of our artists.
I feel like we actually have way more than people think, but it still is fairly few, so we really cling to the ones that we have. We really appreciate the ones we have. We had Prince, we had Judy Garland, we had Jessica Lange, who's on American Horror Story. Love.
Oh,
we had...
That's a whole nother...
Why am I
You're blanking on famous Minnesotans.
Right, but Winona Ryder is from here. She was... From Winona.
They say Bob Dylan was born
Bob Dylan is from
mm-hmm.
Minnesota. Yeah. So, I mean, so many great people are from here, and maybe one day we'll be on that list.
Maybe. It's aspirations, guys. Hopes and dreams.
#dream.
And that's...
Yes. Mm-hmm. We love it. We're very proud of our people, which, interestingly enough, is, I think, another Swedish trait of ours.
Yes.
Of our state, because Swedes are so proud of people from Sweden.
This ties into something that I was going to share, because we have a lot of pride for our home, and that includes our sports teams. And we continue to shower them with gifts of new stadiums, despite the fact that they don't actually win games.
#awkward.
We are big fans, though. And I mean, and I'll put purple and golds on and root on the Vikings right to disappointment like they deliver every year. But it does get a little old. But that's kind of the Minnesotan spirit, is that we don't give up on our own.
It's true.
We keep hoping. Like, you never win games. have a new stadium.
We didn't give up on being the state of hockey for all the years that we didn't even have a professional hockey team.
We were still
the
state of hockey, and then we gave them a new arena, and they came. Probably the silliest name for any sports team I think that we have is the Wild. I think it's a really silly name.
I mean, it's not the best, I suppose.
It's awful. It's not just not the best, it's awful. Okay. Well, everything else has a way to pluralize or make you a fan, like, you know, but with the Wild, you're what? A Wild fan?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just silly.
You're a fan of the Wild.
Right.
I love hockey.
And I don't.
See,
that's the thing. I really hate it, actually. I have a strong feelings about this. I hate hockey. I mean, really, though, it's very Minnesotan to shower these teams with affectionate gifts that they do not deserve.
Well.
And that's a bold statement, but I'm standing behind it. Prove me wrong. Win a championship. Someone, somewhere, some team.
We have a really good women's basketball team. The Lynx.
We do. We have one winner.
The Lynx are great.
And they don't have a new stadium. Which is just
they don't even have, like, their own stadium.
I don't think so. I think they
play
share.
in the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Wherever they play. I don't even know.
Target Center, right?
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I
think that's where the Timberwolves play. I don't know where the Lynx play.
I think I've been to a Timberwolves game.
Oh, but I have too, but not a Lynx game.
Stop it!
We've got to stop with this unison stuff, because it happens a lot. But yeah, it's very Minnesotan.
It is.
So.
But our metro area, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's talk about it. We have the Twin Cities here in Minnesota, which is great.
They're right next to each other.
And St. Paul. The cities themselves are so big that there's so much in them.
Mm-hmm.
And Minneapolis especially is very special, I think. Because, like, you have the city itself and, like, you feel
downtown
like
area, you mean?
You're in the downtown area.
With the tall buildings and, yeah.
But then you don't even have to drive that far, and then you're in, like, such a cool place like Minnehaha Falls, which is, like...
a beautiful waterfall and a very nice park.
Right. A park area.
And we have a lot of parks. I mean...
we have so many parks.
We have so many parks. Even here in my hometown, which is in a suburb.
Right.
We have a lot of parks here.
We do.
And that is good. Which, it's kind of ironic, because, like we were discussing the weather... we don't even have that much time where it's very nice to be outdoors. And yet we have tons of parks and trails, and the city's very bikeable and everything. And I just find that it just sort of proves how hardy Minnesotans are, that we're going to just embrace the heck out of all the outdoor time that we get, because it's minimal.
And people do embrace outdoor time in winter, too.
They do.
They use the parks for, like...
there are things called snowshoes.
Snowshoes. They do that.
I've never used them, but... right, cross-country skiing.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what you were thinking of, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So many people do that here. Even so much that they practice it when it's not snowy. Have you seen those weird skates?
Yes.
They're very strange.
People play that really weird game with the ice and the pucks, curling.
Yes.
Curling. People do curling, which is...
people think that's only in Canada. It's not.
It's not. I dated a guy who...
we're very close to Canada.
I had to go to his curling match.
You're kidding.
No. I've been to one.
You're
I
kidding.
was dating a guy. I went to his curling match. Didn't last very long at all, because it's pretty nerdy. You wouldn't think so, because it is technically a sport, but it's kind of...
But if you've ever seen curling in the Olympics, you know what we're talking about.
It's sort of strange. It's sort of a strange sport, but we really do embrace them. Like, you know, we have the Winter Carnival where people make ice sculptures and we walk around outside in January. And that makes total sense, doesn't it, guys? Yeah. Okay. I have a really kind of fun one, because it's one of the first places... I lived in New Jersey as a smaller child, and we moved back to Minnesota when I was like 12, just about to turn 12. And one of the first things I remember about moving back, besides like our house and the big brouhaha that was going on with the remodeling, which scarred me for life, but my mom made us go to school even though we moved in like April, because that's kind of how she was. We went to school for like 2 weeks. She said it was to make friends. That was not a success in that department at all. Because we sounded weird. If you can imagine, as like an 11-year-old, this is a serious handicap. and something that I tried to remedy immediately by completely stopping to talk to anyone. I just decided if they didn't like how I talked, I wasn't going to talk to anyone.
You developed your great Minnesotan accent.
I did, but it took a long time, and I used to say orange like it was a 3-syllable word, so...
How?
Orange!
I'm sorry. What? I need to know how they say orange in New Jersey.
Orange. It's like an orange. It's an orange.
So there's no R.
There's no R, really. It's sort of a W. It's like an orange.
That's awful.
Yeah, but that was literally how I talked. So you can imagine how welcoming these very insular group of, 20 children that had gone to school together since first grade were super welcoming to me. And I remember the first thing that we did, we went on a field trip to the state capitol.
Oh.
And if you've never seen a picture of our state capitol, there is a glowing chariot and horses on top of our state capitol. And they're golden and they're huge. And we got to walk up to where they were and see them. And I just remember thinking this is just majestic as fuck. You know? It's so cool. Clearly this is a great state. So it's just one of the things I remember, and it's not really... It's pretty cool. You should check it out. But it's
fab.
It also cemented my, fear of heights. Because before that time, I was kind of just... We had gone to, New York City, and I had been in skyscrapers and things. And, on the top of the Statue of Liberty, I totally lost my shit. So I kind of knew that this was coming, but it was really embarrassing to do it in the presence of these beautiful golden horses.
Not in the presence of your classmates.
Not my new classmates that already strongly disliked me and thought I was weird and alien-like. But no, the golden horses. So that's kind of I sort of associate them with a personal meltdown in my mind, but they're really beautiful.
But also majestic.
They're majestic as fuck, yes. They're just amazing. They shine with the sunlight, and it's really...
Oh my gosh.
It's really good.
See, I can't imagine having an experience like that, because I've always lived here.
Sure.
I've never lived anywhere else.
Sure, so you don't even...
So these things are not majestic as fuck to me. It's just
that's
really
our
cool. Capital.
And I mean, I had been to Philadelphia and New York and seen all kinds of cool stuff, but to me that really stuck out in my mind as this place is cool. Whoa. They have huge golden horses on top of their capital. So I found it, pretty neat, and as a child it was wonderful and scarring at the same time. I never really recovered from that.
Oh dear.
Still get a little
lightheaded.
A little lightheaded when I think about how effective they were.
Oh my. So I have several favorite little places, and everybody has their own favorite places in their home state, but I think we have some really unique places. First of all, we have the sculpture garden,
the cherry and the spoon.
The cherry and the spoon, which everybody sees on Minnesota postcards, but it has nothing to do with Minnesota.
I really don't know what it has to do.
Don't be confused. We don't have a big spoon factory. We are not massively producing cherries. You can't even grow
cherries here, I don't think. No. So it really doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make sense, but it's there.
For some reason it's iconic.
But that's not one of my favorite places. We have really cool places the Gay 90s in Minneapolis.
Where you order a vodka Red Bull and they give you a can of Red Bull with a glass full of vodka.
Yes.
You can't go wrong with a place like that. No. I remember
drag queens galore.
Yeah, they do beautiful shows. Drinks. Awesome drinks. It is really fun there.
Several different dancing areas. I haven't been in so long, but it's so much fun. And then we have the best theaters here.
Mm-hmm,
Minnesota actually has the second best theater in the country after New York. Oh. If you didn't know that.
There are quite a few different theaters downtown.
We do. Yeah. The Lion King the musical, or the Broadway show, actually originated here. It's back here right now. Cool. As a matter of fact, and I really want to go see it. But
it's expensive. Though.
It is. Yeah. But we have great theaters, and then one of my most favorite places that I didn't know about until I was older, and it breaks my heart that I didn't know about this as a child, is Minnesota's largest candy store.
Oh.
Which is probably really... like the world's largest candy store.
Wow. If it was the world's largest candy store, I'm pretty sure they would advertise that because they are pretty loud about being the biggest candy store in Minnesota.
That's true. They are.
So if they were the largest in the world, I'm sure we would have heard
I feel like we deserve to have the largest one in the world because we have the largest mall in the world.
We do.
So why do we not have the largest candy store?
It's misleading, though. We don't actually have the largest mall in the world. There are malls that are bigger than it now.
No.
Yes, there are. Yes, absolutely. Even in the U.S. and in Canada, there are a couple malls that are bigger. Sorry. Maybe not now. They're expanding it, so maybe they're trying to get the biggest title.
They've added the hotels on and everything.
But
so
I don't think that counts as being part of the mall.
They've been trying to combat it.
Maybe, but...
I think it does, though, because it's still, like, physically attached.
Maybe.
So it still counts.
We'll have to research that. I know that at one time, it was not the largest mall in the world.
No, because a mall in Canada, like, beat it out.
Right. And then I think one in Dubai or something.
Blame Canada.
For everything.
Except for Celine Dion. I love her.
Well, of course.
Oh, my God.
And there's also, as a Minnesotan, I think one of the, it's kind of funny because you would think that we're nice, but we actually have quite a rivalry going with most of the neighboring states. A lot of animosity towards Iowa. What's the best thing to come out of Iowa? I-35.
Literally nothing.
I-35.
Oh,
that's a joke.
I have a coworker that came from Iowa. I really like her.
But she lives in Minnesota now, and that just goes to prove our point. Iowa.
Yeah.
So, and even with the Dakotas, there's been a little bit of animosity about, like, businesses and taxes and things. A little bit of shenanigans there.
So I literally forget that South Dakota is a thing.
We just went to visit it last summer, and I have to say, your cell phone really doesn't work in most of South Dakota.
Oh, great.
Mine certainly didn't.
Well.
And the cuisine was questionable. And the attractions were largely touristy, trappy.
Ugh.
So I probably won't be returning to South Dakota. My children had a marvelous time.
That's good.
They thought the Mount Rushmore was really cool.
I've never been to South Dakota.
Oh, well, so, I can speak as an expert.
Including Mount Rushmore, which people think is crazy that I haven't been there, but I haven't been to a lot of things.
Well, yeah, but it is kind of crazy just because there are not a lot of places that you can do a nice road trip to from Minnesota. True. Example, Iowa. No one wants to go there. Wisconsin, maybe on your way to Chicago. But South Dakota is actually pretty close, and it is kind of neat to go if you go further. You know, you get into the Badlands and that kind of scenery and climate sort of. That's not something you can get here. We're pretty flat, and there's not really a ton of great geographical features aside from, of course, all the lakes that produce all the mosquitoes.
Sure.
So
I don't really have a whole lot of experience with North Dakota either, except for Fargo.
Which
if
slanderous.
You don't know this, Fargo is in North Dakota.
It is not actually in Minnesota.
The movie Fargo is set in Brainerd, Minnesota.
It is,
not
is
Fargo.
But it's about something in Fargo.
Right.
Yeah, but
do you notice that even just by saying Fargo, we both are just like, okay.
So
here's the other thing. In Minnesota, people get so offended about the movie Fargo because it's like, that's not how we talk, and it's like, no, actually, you don't realize how we talk. That is how we talk.
That is how we talk. It's not quite that exaggerated.
Well, but the thing is,
it kind of is.
Most of the movie is set in Brainerd, and the further north you get, the more it comes out. So it's not completely unrealistic that that's the accent that's portrayed in the movie.
That's true.
And people get so bent out of shape about it, and it's so funny.
This is like my really piling it on real thick Minnesotan. Right. You know, you don't really always hear that, but you do hear a lot of long vowels.
There's O's and there's A's, and there's the chewing of the vowels. That you like.
Sort of the over-processing of words in your mouth. People tend to do that here. But it's really kind of embarrassing when you realize how heavy it is. But it's not quite as bad as I think that movie portrayed. No, I don't think so.
Certainly exaggerated.
But we definitely do have accents.
We do.
And if I think about it a lot, then it starts to come out more.
Yes. My favorite thing about our accent is when other people try to do it.
Oh, sure.
So, obviously, in the movie Fargo, the people in that movie are
fabricating these accents. They're not real.
And they do a fairly good job, but they over-exaggerated it.
Of course.
So
that was part of it,
But in the TV show Fargo,
which I haven't watched. So.
Is Martin Freeman, who, if you don't know, like, he's also in the fantastic BBC show Sherlock.
No.
Okay, well, he's great.
Okay.
He's British, though.
But he's trying to do a Minnesotan accent.
And he's doing a Minnesotan accent. And I love watching him in season 1 of Fargo, because every so often, like, all of a sudden he'll slip and start into this just, like, really generic American accent, because that's the best he can do in that moment.
Right.
It's just like, oh my god, you poor guy.
Oh, sorry.
To have to be British, which is like such a nice, posh, beautiful,
I have yet to
accent.
Perfect a British accent.
It's hard. And I think it's partially because of how our accent is, that it's so hard for us.
Hard to do.
Because it's certainly hard for him to switch out of his into ours.
I have yet to watch this show. Keep planning on doing it, and then I just don't do it. So.
It's really good. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
And it wasn't... I mean, it certainly had similarities to the movie, but the actual, like, plot itself is not at all. It's very different.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed it. And again, that's just more Minnesota pride. Like, things that are set in Minnesota, I'm so much more inclined to watch just because they're from here.
Drop Dead Gorgeous is a horrible movie, but I completely love it.
But it's so good.
But it's so good. But I completely
so
adore it. But it really is. It's not really a very good movie. I mean, if you watch it from, like, an objective standpoint, it's pretty horrible. But I just adore it because... Like, isn't Kirsten Dunst, isn't she from Minnesota?
No, I don't think she is. I think she's just done
Josh
so many
Hartnett
things.
Is.
I think that she has just done so many things that people think that she's from Minnesota.
That is a perfect example of Minnesota pride kind of overcoming logic.
Right.
Because it does that routinely. Also, loons.
Loons. Segue.
Loons are beautiful, but they are really a strange bird. I find them gorgeous, but I think an objective observer might not agree because they're really quite odd shaped, and they're birds that, like, you know, can only fly if they have, like, a large water runway. I mean, they're not really
the weirdest things about loons to me is the sound that they make.
That's my favorite part.
No, it's a really nice sound, and, like, we all know it, especially just because of, like, the lottery commercials.
That's true. The lottery commercials, it's kind of on the radio and on the TV.
Like, it's the Minnesota lottery, and then you hear a loon in the background, but have you ever tried to replicate what a loon sounds like? Because
we have a loon whistle. Like, we have a specific device that's made to sound like a loon, and it still doesn't, so I know you can't. But I remember watching a horror movie one time, and they had the loons in the background, and I was just like, this is not right. Loons are not scary. I am not scared. Make the owl noises like you're supposed to. Why are you slandering my loons, you know?
Why are you slandering my loons?
Well, I really do have strong feelings about them.
You do.
They're my favorite. So I wanted to mention them, too. But they are kind of weird birds that we really probably shouldn't be so proud of.
I feel like they are our state bird because you can't say loon and not sound Minnesotan.
Right? Just like tater tot hot dish. You can't say that.
That was the last thing I really wanted to talk about.
Oh, of course.
Like, the pride and joy of Minnesota is that we invented tater tot hot dish.
I don't know if you can go so far as to say we invented it.
Shut up, we invented it.
Well, it's definitely a Minnesotan thing. And if you
where else do you get Minnesota or tater tot hot
She's
dish?
like, it's called Minnesota hot dish. Well, you know, I'm not sure. I guess maybe we did, but I feel like it's been around the Midwest for a while. But not that long, because we haven't really had frozen tater tots like that for that long. So, it's delicious, though. I make it regularly.
It's the best.
We make ours with corn and cream soups. I don't use cream of mushroom because I hate mushrooms. No. Typically, I use a cheese soup and, like, a cream of potato.
Oh, that's curious.
Mm-hmm. It's very good. Or a cream of celery is also an adequate substitute.
Yes, I like a cream of potato or a cream of celery.
Mm-hmm. The cheese soup's good, though, because I like putting a layer of cheese under the tots. But for me, the most important thing is tot placement.
Yes, it's like Tetris.
Right, it cannot be
more serious.
It cannot be willy-nilly, like, throw a bag on there and smooth it out. I see people do that sometimes.
How dare you?
I know, it's
how dare you insult tater tot hot dish in such a way?
You're not doing it right.
You are so wrong.
I lay them out in a long line, and I've experimented heavily with this. And here I'm gonna plug.
You're gonna reveal your secret?
I'm gonna plug my Pyrex a little bit.
Oh.
She says, oh. But I've tried. It is, actually. It makes a really delicious casserole. But I've experimented heavily, and what I would recommend is getting a 9x13 shallow-ish baking pan.
What's its number?
It's a 933.
Okay.
They're kind of expensive, though, so that's why I say you can use a modern substitute, but that's the ideal size for, like, your pound of hamburger and your 2 cans of soup and your 1 can of corn and your seasonings. You don't
want it to be too deep, otherwise it doesn't, like, cook properly.
Correct. And you also need your tots to have as much surface exposure as possible.
Right.
So I lay them flat, like, on their sides, not so they're sticking up on their sides, and you do long stems of them, and that's how I recommend. I've tried it in oval-shaped casseroles like your 045. I've tried them in round casseroles like your 475. No, it doesn't work. The ideal casserole is a 933. So I encourage you, if you are in the market for Pyrex, that you look up a 933 on eBay. You can probably get one for about $40. It might not be the most beautiful which is commitment. It's worth it. Dish? It's worth it. Or you can try to thrift one, but it'll take you a year.
Okay, but our listeners obviously need Tater Tot Hotdish
Well, like, that's why I said you can use a modern substitute. You can go get a 9x13 glass Pyrex baking pan at Target for probably $20. I mean,
holla Target.
Love you, Target.
Hometown company.
Right? Of course, you can't forget to mention Target.
No.
Target is located here in Minnesota, and it's just one of the best stores ever. It's a store with a Starbucks inside it.
It is.
You can't really get any better than that.
I'm actually really proud that Target's from here, because I feel like they're a really great company.
They are.
Especially, like, all the changes that they've made.
Well, lately. Recent Canada closures notwithstanding.
Right.
But, yes, I think Target is a good company. It's been around for a long time.
They definitely portray, like, the general values of the people of Minnesota very well.
I think so.
And I love that about them.
I've seen, they went a little viral a while back with their gay pride display in the Target, and that's just the perfect example of Target. I mean, and we've, legalized same-sex marriage here in Minnesota. We're one of the most liberal states in the Midwest, so I think it's really a welcoming environment for any viewpoint. We elected an independent governor.
We did.
In my lifetime. That's something that doesn't happen.
No.
So I think, just in general, that I'm pretty proud to be Minnesotan, I think.
I agree.
So.
I'm really proud that we live here. And that we grew up here.
And I think that, recent events have not impacted my love for my home state, and I don't think that anything ever could, because really good people. I know so many wonderful people that have been raised here, and just kind of, it's not something. I've had people pay for my, drinks at, gas stations or like at your Caribou, another great Minnesotan place. And I've seen personally so many acts of kindness, experienced them myself. We just band together and take care of each other. So I'm really hoping that is going to continue.
It's a really good place.
It is.
It was also recently voted like the best place to raise children or to grow up or something like that.
It was the best place to raise children, I think, and that's like a couple years we've been towards the top of the list for that. So I feel like it's a good place to be. Oh, and nut goodies are made here in St. Paul, and you can't really go wrong with a good nut goodie. The salted nut rolls, those things are just really good, and those were from here in Minnesota too.
So basically what we're telling you is that Minnesota is the best of the 50 United States. Minnesota is the best of the 50 nifty United States from 13 original colonies. Okay.
Okay, anyway.
So move here.
Well.
We'll welcome you if you're not a dick.
Yes, please stay away if you are a dick. Nobody likes dicks. Not even Minnesotans. And I will admit, too, that it's kind of a tough nut to crack, but once you get in there, it's worth it. So.
Yes. So, what you should do is, if you're from Minnesota, tweet us. And
let us know.
Us your favorite thing, or your least favorite thing about being in Minnesota, or being from Minnesota, at LTE Podcast.
And if you are not from here, you can ask us pretty much anything you want about Minnesota, and Well,
you can tell us fun things about your state, too, but ultimately you just need to understand
We don't really care.
that
Unless you're from Iowa.
If you're from Iowa, just
don't bother.
Down.
Yeah. Don't rate us. Please subscribe still, but always. We welcome all subscribers. So.
Oh, man. Yeah. Send us an email to louderthaneverpodcast@gmail.com and tell us all about your state pride, unless you're from Iowa.
Right, because we don't want to hear about that noise. So
that's it.
That's it. We're done for today, but we'll be back at you next week with more laughs and fun and be louder than ever.
Yay! Yay! Oh, Jesus.
Jesus Christ.